All right, and we're back with the program. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. And again, it's that time. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about The Walking Dead because there's a lot to say about The Walking Dead. Their season just came out. I mean, a lot of people are looking at it. It is still, even with all the declining numbers and all the things that people love to say about it and love to say against it and things of that nature, it is still AMC's #1 show. Let's get that right out there. But the numbers are declining, and there's a lot of issues going forward for that show. But at least the things are clearer for that show than some other things in the TWD universe. And here to talk to me today about The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and also the new Walking Dead show coming in 2020 is my good friend. She is an awesome, awesome person indeed. She is the head, or at least one of, let's call her the administrator of the Walking Dead fan base. You want to check out that awesome group with tens of thousands of people associated to it. You want to go ahead and check that out today on Facebook, or also as well, Talking the Dead 18 plus, a great place to go for adults as well when they're talking everything The Walking Dead. It is my good friend. It is Daphne Matthew. Daphne,
hello.
I've actually been promising the folks out there on radio, in the podcast sphere, I've been promising you a couple of weeks now on this air to talk some TW because I've had some things I want to get off my chest when it comes to TWD.
But I know I know.
Let's go with the current. Let's go with the current right here, and that is The Walking Dead. A new season has started. Again, the numbers are not what AMC would love to see. I mean, it is still in a downward slope. I mean, the +7 numbers are still pretty good, and it is still AMC's #1 show. That's got to stress that. It is still AMC's #1 show. So if anybody wonders why that they're still, putting out a big budget for this show, why are they doing Fear the Walking Dead? Why are they doing another show in 2020? It's because this show still, of any of their shows, gets their biggest ratings. So I want to hear from you. How has this season started for you? Has it started off on a good note before we head into the other two things I want to talk about?
Excuse me. Yeah. Well, I think actually this season has taken this show back to what it should have been since season 7. The storyline lost its way during season 7 after Glenn and Abraham died because it started focusing so much on people that we started to forget that this was supposed to be a show about walkers and how people survived amongst them. But I think this season they're taking it back to where it used to be, where, there's actually walkers in the show. So I think so far from the first 2 episodes that have aired that the show is actually a lot better than the last 2 seasons. I think AMC is now forced to go back to what worked in the past, which was not having, even though for 8.5 seasons, Andrew Lincoln was the focus, there was a lot more story to the show. So they realized that, and I love them both. I love them all. I love all the characters. I have actually met most of them in person with the exception of Andrew Lincoln. It's gone back to more of an ensemble as opposed to one person. I think realistically, they realized that the characters of Daryl and Carol, though they are important to the story, they would not keep people watching the show. So they had to go back and start bringing back the storyline with the walkers. I think a lot of people are talking about the ratings. I think I mentioned this before. See, AMC did something very, they pretty much shot themselves in the leg when it comes to this show in particular, because they give you the ability to join AMC Premiere and you can see the show a day in advance. So people don't have to wait till Sunday to see The Walking Dead. People don't have to wait till Sunday to see Fear the Walking Dead. So basically, it's like everybody keeps on talking about ratings, but like I said before, this is 10 years since The Walking Dead premiered.
But I will say this.
And
Let me interject this. I say,
mm,
people talk about the ratings, especially numbers people like me. I follow the
mhm.
ratings. That's what I do. A lot of what I say as far as box office or ratings, that's what I do as far as for the show. That's how I analyze things. And that's how I gauge people's interests. That's the first thing I see. Obviously, social media and some other things go into it as well. But when you go from 15 million people to 4 million people watching an episode of a show, you can't dissuade that your show has lost 10 million viewers. Yes, it's great that it had 15 million viewers on an episode,
Mhm.
but to go down to that low, even though it's still AMC's number one show, is still, you have to be concerned because you're used
Well,
to a certain level of where your show is at as far as popularity, and when it hits
I
that type of depths where the show's never hit before, that has got to
yeah.
be somewhat of a
I'm
concern.
sure they're very concerned with the numbers, but like I said, they technology has changed so much where you can look at an episode days in advance. I mean, it actually happened, but it never was released on in either of my group, but in other groups that I am familiar with, where people was airing the premiere 3 days before it aired. They were able to find it on YouTube and see. That's the problem. We have so much technology now. It's killing a lot of shows. The Walking Dead isn't the only show that is suffering this. There are so many shows that are struggling to keep their viewership.
Oh, and I agree with you. Broadcasting cable have,
Yeah.
over the past 10 years since the advent of streaming has had a sharp
Mm-hmm.
decline. I mean, my friend Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com, she'll tell you flat out because she follows the numbers on a daily basis, and she'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you that the numbers overall for anything broadcasting cable has declined overall. One of the aberrations in that storyline, though, halfway through this decade was The Walking Dead, where the numbers were actually rising while other traditional shows were declining. It's
Right.
until this show, I'm not going to say I'm going to say some of it is part of the fact that the storyline, characters being written off, characters dying off, you know, some of that has got to be an issue. Yes, some of it is due to people just getting tired of the series and moving on for one reason or another. But some
Well,
of it
I
is just
think
because it's I
yeah.
think it's a twofold issue when it comes to the
Well,
rate.
I think the majority, the biggest decline started with season 7 with the brutal deaths of Abraham and Glenn. That's when the show started declining. So basically, what they did after that, AMC made the decision to tone down the violence. Okay, it did work for a while, but they had after that episode, season 7 was probably the worst season in Walking Dead history because it was like too much story, too much dragging it out. And then you got the last 3 episodes, which was absolutely great, but you had 12 episodes of garbage. So, um, historically, all shows decline towards the end of their run. I know the day The Walking Dead premiered on October 6th, it was renewed for season 11. I don't see it going past season 12 because, first of all, we have another main character leaving, with Denai leaving sometime this season.
But you do have
The,
one coming back in Lauren Cohen in season 11.
yeah,
Is
but
that
that's
correct?
not till season 11. So it's
Yeah.
like we got to get through this season first. I don't think because of the storyline itself, the Whisper of War, I don't think they're going to have too big of a decline this season. They actually might get some viewers back due to word of mouth. Because this is actually one of the best storylines in the comics. Could they have done it earlier? Maybe they should have, because as I said, season 7 and parts of season 8 is what really crippled the show. Forget about all the stuff you can see it for free or somebody can pass you a link. That doesn't matter when the time comes where live viewers are even online talking about how the show sucks. So, we have an interesting combination here. And the other question, why would AMC continue on with a show when now after 10 seasons, it's like the ratings are like they've lost 60% of their audience?
Well, again, it goes
Um,
back to them being number one on
yeah, and they're
this
still the
network.
number, and surprisingly, they're still the number one show. The other thing is, we have this interesting little scenario where a lot of the viewers don't get to see it. They don't include the ratings from overseas. The show airs in several overseas countries, and they don't get to see it till the following day. So they don't even include the ratings. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard to look at a show that had 15 million viewers 3 years ago, and then 4 years later, you're seeing the ratings saying 4 million, and you see these terrible reviews talking about the show was the worst yet. But now people are saying this is the best. This is looking to be one of the best seasons ever. So it's like, can they keep this momentum up? Because now people are talking about the show again, and it's not all bad. People are actually interested in the show. People are actually interested in see what happens next. So now AMC has a challenge. You gave us 2 great first episodes. The question is, can you keep it going? Are you going to do something silly like they did in season 7 and have an awesome first couple of episodes, and then you start going back to what pretty much ruined the show is too much storyline. So we have to wait and see. As long as they don't do what they did to Fear the Walking Dead this season, The Walking Dead should be fine for another 2 seasons, up to season 12.
Once again, I'm talking to Daphne Matthew. You got to check her awesome Facebook group out. It is the Walking Dead fan base. Tens of thousands of people have already joined. If you're a TWD fan, you got to go ahead and be part of that conversation. The Walking Dead fan base and also Talking the Dead 18 plus. Both groups are available now on Facebook. I'll tell you what, Daphne, you mentioned Fear the Walking Dead.
You're Walking Dead.
Fear the Walking Dead is something I really wanted to talk to you about because, oh my goodness, as we left the last season of Fear the Walking Dead, one of my favorite characters and a character from the original first season of The Walking Dead, Lenny James, appears to be on death door. Now we've seen this before. Now we've seen this before on the Walking Dead, where a character is near death and is brought back to life, or in Rick's case, taken away in a helicopter. Okay. But, a lot of people are upset that this could lead to an impending death for Lenny James and his character. I would be first on that list because I do immensely appreciate his work. I think he is one of the few redeeming values and redeeming characters in that series, because Fear the Walking Dead has not only gone off the rails, but it's gone off the rails, gone down a hillside, and actually gone down the mountain. Okay, let's just put that out there.
They've jumped off the cliff totally with this show. I agree with that. Well,
I mean, my question to you is, well, hold on. My question to you is simply this: why keep that show on the air, and especially if they kill off Lenny James' character?
Okay, that goes back to the reason why they brought Dwight on the show. So if you remember, at the end of season 8 of The Walking Dead, Daryl pretty much exiled Dwight from Alexandria and told him if he ever sees him again, he was going to kill him on sight. So that segued his eventual appearance. But see, this is the problem with his appearance on Fear. Well, no, actually it does work, because when when Daryl exiled Dwight, they hadn't had the time jump yet. So that's okay. Because if you realize, Fear the Walking Dead is still 6 years behind The Walking Dead, because they didn't have a super duper time jump. So the reason why they brought Dwight in, and this I have pretty much confirmed, is because Morgan is going to break my heart, because I've met Lenny, and he is an incredible, like you say, he is an incredible actor. He's done a lot of movies. He's an awesome actor and a wonderful person. But the thing is that, I do believe he will die. Because first of all, what they did to the show was ridiculous. They went through a whole season without anybody really dying until episode 14, when that Logan died. Logan finally got killed by Jenny. And her people. So you went a whole season without a death. You went a whole season of storyline of redemption that basically destroyed the show. I mean, the only reason I can see for them even having sixth season, because if you notice, the third show, which is yet to be unnamed, is coming on in February of 2020, January, February of next year, a couple of months, which is supposed to be another, how should I say?
I'll talk to you about that one in a sec. So let's just
No, but I'm just saying how it all ties in.
Okay.
So basically, if you think about the timing of this show, it's coming on usually when Fear the Walking Dead would be airing on their station. The reason why they're doing that is because Fear the Walking Dead will probably end next season. Morgan is probably going to die. There's been rumblings in the TWD universe that Lenny was leaving the show. He wanted to leave the show. He regretted leaving The Walking Dead as at the time that he did, but he was given a choice when he decided to go to Fear. It was either go to Fear and eventually bring the group, be the catalyst for the shows combining, or you can die your death on The Walking Dead. So he took the first option, and it did not play out very well because see, the problem is that where the show started, where Fear started at the beginning of the apocalypse. I mean, the dead beginning. And it just went in so many different directions. There hasn't been a season where you could see a pattern of consistency since season 2. They spent half of that season on a boat, and then they ended up in Mexico. And after that, it just got worse. This season was by far the worst season I've ever seen. It was even for a diehard Walking Dead fan, it was torture to have to look at that entire season until the very last episode, the best episode of the season. You had to go through 15 episodes of nonsense to get to it. And unfortunately, it's probably the death of Lenny. So basically, I know from looking at the show that they started talking about the group start before Jenny came in and separated them all and sent them all in different directions. There was talk of them going to Alexandria. So I could see for next season them starting the journey if they ever reunite the entire group. How they're going to do that is pretty much going to be impossible. Pretty much the group starts its journey towards going to Alexandria and them assimilating or joining The Walking Dead in season 12. I can see that happening. And I can see Dwight being the person to bring them because I mean, yeah, we've had instances on The Walking Dead. Glenn with the dumpster dive is one of them that comes to mind. Rick and last season and then was able to get back to his family. In season 9, we have seen people get injuries that would kill a normal person, but they somehow managed to survive it. Carl getting shot in the eye comes to mind also. But I think what happened to Morgan will be the end of Morgan because there's nobody there to save him. I mean, they could surprise us and bring in somebody, I don't know, maybe Jadis. Who knows? To save him, but I don't see it happening. I think that, and I haven't heard anything about it, but I really think that that was the last of Morgan on the show. We might see him in the first episode of season 6 for those couple of 100,000 who still actually watch Fear the Walking Dead. I can see it happening, but I don't see him going past. I mean, staying on the show the entire season. That show is, and I hate to say it because I tried to give it. I really tried to give it a shot, even though it was killing me on this season. I looked at every episode, but I can't see them redeeming the show. I think they need to tie it up, wrap it up with a bow, send whatever cast they're going to keep to The Walking Dead, I'll say useful cast. There's certain people from Fear the Walking Dead that should die before they even combine shows. So that's my take on Fear the Walking Dead. I really, really don't see why they renewed it for another season, other than to bring the groups together.
Well, we have just a couple minutes left, but I got to ask you, there's a third Walking Dead show that's on the way. With all the issues that are going on with The Walking Dead and the ratings and all the stuff that's going on with, as far as the bad perception that Fear the Walking Dead has, and the troubles right now ratings wise with The Walking Dead and all the stuff that goes around it and all the negative press and negative vibes, still season 10 of Walking Dead is off to a good start. The Whisper storyline has been something that has improved the series. I will give it that. Is enough to say
it has.
No, but
It
yes,
has
it has
started.
indeed. It has indeed, and as something that hopefully will actually start to have the viewers come back. Maybe in small amounts, at least to start. Hopefully, that's the case. But I want to ask you this: why bring out another show with all the stuff that's going on right now in The Walking Dead? Why put the focus and the onus on another show coming in 2020?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. It's to get the audience back that they lost. If you look at the ratings, the core audience that used to watch the show was between the 18 and 49-year-old demographics. They've lost the majority of that. I mean, even diehard fans in that age group was finding it hard to watch.
Well, 18 and 49 demo is the most important demo because those are the ones that are most appealing to advertisers.
Exactly. So basically, the reason for the show, this third spinoff, is that, well, they know Fear is not going to make it. The Walking Dead, we have to be honest, all the characters are getting older. They're old. Norman Reedus just hit 50. And all the characters are getting older. So what they're trying to do with this show is look at the zombie apocalypse from a younger perspective. My understanding of the synopsis of this show is going to be a group of teens. They realize Judith, the character of Judith, is too young to be in a standalone show by herself. She's 8, 9 years old now, I think. They could not have her lead the Alexandria group. So now they're thinking maybe they can appeal to the 18 to 49-year-old demographics by actually building a storyline about a group of survivors within that age range. So, excuse me. That is why they're having the third show. Haven't seen nothing but a small trailer of it, but from what I've seen, it could possibly. Nothing will ever take the place of The Walking Dead, but I could see where it will draw some interest, maybe out of curiosity in the beginning. And hopefully, if they have decent enough writers, they will draw an audience and keep the audience, as opposed to what happened with Fear. But their AMC has this belief, because not only is it the number one show for them, it's also their biggest cash cow. So they're figuring that if they continue to verbally milk the cow, that, it will save AMC, because, they have canned some pretty good shows in order to make room in their schedule for this show. They canceled Preacher. They canceled, what was the other show? Into the Badlands. So basically, they're canceling shows that were actually doing pretty well on their own in order to make room in their schedule to make spinoffs. They wanted it to be the next Star Trek, but see, the difference between The Walking Dead and Star Trek is that there's only so much of a story you're going to get. How long do they think the ZA can go on? Everybody knows that, okay, well, they tried to pull a fast one on us and tell us that everything that happened in the first 8 seasons of The Walking Dead took place in a time period of only 2 years. People are finding that hard, really hard to swallow because it doesn't match up. It doesn't add up. So they're hoping now that they can keep it going with. Now they're going to do it from the perspective of teens, I guess. I mean, it is feasible because they're killing off the. They're going to eventually kill off the last living teen from the hillside, who didn't get piked. So Henry's friend Gage, he's going to die this season, pretty much. That's pretty much a given. The rumor mill is rampant with who is going to die this season, and he made the list as well as some other characters. So basically, right now, I don't really know anything about the new show except for what I've seen on the web. There hasn't been too much talking about it. I mean, I think they've been doing pretty well with it airing in about 3 months. They've done a pretty good job of keeping the spoiler sites out of it. So there's not much floating around about the show except for every now and then they'll throw a snippet of information out there. But tonight's Walking Dead, if you hear this eventually or you get around to looking at it, it's going to be a very, very good episode. This is going to be the beginning of one is the biggest storyline in the comics, where several major characters in the comics died, and it's a very long one. So this one could actually take up the whole season without it dragging out because in the comics, it was a long, I think it was about 40 comics in total for the Whisperer War, but there was so many different things happening. So from what I'm seeing so far with the first two episodes, except for the beginning of the season with that thing on the beach, they're pretty much following the story arc of the Whisperer War. Now, the only thing that's going to happen that is still very much a question in Facebook in the TWD groups is who's going to get the alpha kill. In the comics, it was Negan. Everybody is rooting for Carol to get it because she killed Henry. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that. But that's it. It's been a very interesting two episodes so far. The one thing they did that was really surprising, a lot of people were happy with, was that the last episode was only beta and alpha. You didn't see any of the other communities in that episode, and also it gave you a very good understanding of the relationship between beta and alpha and how they first met. So I think a lot of people are getting interested with the show now because they're doing the backstories. Whereas in the past, the only backstory I think we really got was with the governor. And that wasn't even an episode. That was just him talking about it. And the same thing with Negan. But now this backstory is what's going to be, I'll say, the focus of, or I should be, I'm not going to say the focus, but it should be the building block as to where the story goes this season. And I think now that you understand the relationship between alpha and beta, hopefully they'll go into depth more on the show and see what it is. Why is it that beta has he has some control over her, because he was really pissed about her letting Gamma's sister live until she tried to kill her. So I hope they go into what happened between them, where he has a lot of influence over her and how she does what she do. So only thing I'm going to say is that I think this is going to be the make or break season for The Walking Dead. The writing seems to be very well. It's very well filmed and directed so far, but I hope they can carry the momentum, because if they don't, I don't see it going past 12 either way, because I think that's it. I think you can only eke out so much from the comics, and with the comics ended now, where they're going to get their storyline. There's only so much you can make up without fans dropping off the face of the earth, because they'll be like, that didn't happen in the comics. So we'll see what happens. But I know we're out of time. I see the timer. But I will say somewhere around the mid-season finale, we can chat again and see how this season panned out so far for everybody.
We will definitely do so indeed, and see how it works out with The Walking Dead, and also as well the future of the Walking Dead universe with Fear the Walking Dead and the new untitled or as yet titled show coming up in 2020.
I thought I read somewhere it was TWD Apocalypse. I don't know. It might be false. It just might be something somebody threw out there, but I thought that's what I read. But we should pretty much have a good information on it by the time the mid-season finale airs in 6 weeks. So we'll see what happens in 6 weeks.
We will see what happens in 6 weeks, and we'll have you back on again, certainly for that and a lot more coming up in the future when it concerns The Walking Dead and so many other things pop culture. It is once again Daphne Matthew from The Walking Dead fan base. Also as well, Talking the Dead 18 plus. You got to catch those awesome groups today on Facebook and be part of the Walking Dead conversation. Daphne, as always, it's great to have you on the show. Looking forward to that mid-season report from you here in a few weeks. I just cannot thank you enough for being part of the show and as always being part of the pop culture.
Thank you very much.